The women's Flèche Wallonne, though, a much more intriguing race. As I said, only 2 laps of the Mur de Huy. They have the Charave at the same place, 5Ks from the finish. We have SD Works here with a strong team. No Kopecky, though. They obviously deemed it too hard, the finishing climb for her, with Vollering, Mühlmann, Niamh Fisher-Black as probably their strongest riders. And I think Vulnerable Black is a domestique. We have FDJ with Chapman and Cavalli, and Van Vleuten with Sierra. So Van Vleuten, I think, would have been the big favourite. There's no Ander Vandenberger, who's had won this race like 7 times in a row. Nuvia Doma came second last year, looking very strong, and now has reinforcements with Ruliakers and Shabby. So a lot of expectation, at least from me, on her to be getting a good result. But big break went Benji, and FDJ missed it, which kind of coloured the entirety of the last hour of this race.
Yeah, it was intriguing because I swear I saw online at first when it was still like 50 kilometers or so to go that there was a breakaway of 6 riders, and mostly Italian riders, not necessarily the riders that are dangerous for the peloton. And I run off to my turbo trainer, I jump on my turbo trainer, I launch the GCN app on my phone and start looking at the footage, and there's suddenly way more riders than 6 riders in that breakaway. So I don't know if all those riders teleported to the breakaway or whether they attack at a certain point. I'm going to guess the second part is the most likely thing, and those are actually dangerous riders, like Anna Shackley from SD Works, pretty solid climber, Amal Yusik and Shabby both for Canyon SRAM, so a strong duo there. Leah Thomas for Trek Segafredo, Jelena Erich for Movistar. Correct me when it comes to that pronunciation in the comment section, because I'd love to know how to pronounce it. Peperkamp for DSM. Spratt for Bex. She's showing better form than last year. She's really getting into it again in my eyes. Anushka Koster for Jumbo. We've got Double Hickok for Tipco, EF Tipco, and I think another rider in there as well that I can't remember the name of. But that was the group there, and it was intriguing. Like you mentioned, FDJ missed that train, and we saw that behind. And honestly, the time gaps in this race on TV, I didn't know what to believe anymore, because Brody Chapman was pacing in the front of the peloton for a very, very long time. Definitely the MVP of this group would have gotten come back. And then we noticed that the gap is going up from 1:30 to 2 minutes to 3 minutes, 3 minutes 20, 3 minutes 25, and then suddenly it shows back up at 1:30. So I'm guessing the GPS was very wrong at that moment in the race, and the gap kept going down from that point. Chapman brought it down to, I think, roughly 55 seconds, and then Ivica Muzic also started taking over for FDJ. So FDJ had to do everything behind. And the intriguing part, the one thing I want to ask you about it, is we see that Jelena Erich from Movistar is in the breakaway. Movistar is not doing anything behind, obviously, because they got a rider up there. But when the gap closes down to 20 seconds, we see that that rider drops back from the breakaway, starts spacing in the peloton behind, helps out FDJ because they switched their plan there. Do you think that's a good strategy, or do you think that they should have let the last gap also be closed by FDJ?
I mean, I think the break was coming back anyway, so I don't really think they needed to do it, because everyone was refusing to work with Shabby and Amelie Usyk, because they were probably 2 of the strongest in that group, apart from Shackley, but SD Works weren't going to bet at all on Shackley. So yeah, I don't think it mattered either way. I wouldn't have done it because the break was coming back anyway. I would have made FDJ fully close it. And they maybe didn't know what was about to happen on Sharav. When the gap was about 15 seconds, it looked like we didn't see, because there's no moto. The gap was too small for there to be moto between the break, the remnants of it, and the peloton. But Castelline and I think a Jumbo-Visma rider had attacked, and we saw Vollering behind launching. So SD Works were like, we're not going to go to the Mur de Huy base without trying to attack Annemiek van Vleuten. We're going to try and use our strength in numbers. We've had Shackley ahead. We have Vollering, Mühlmann, and Niamh Fisher-Black behind. And so they attack with Vollering. Close down all the favourites there. Next attack, Mühlmann. Kind of like rolling attacks. And then Clout was closed down by Van Vleuten herself. She had to do it. And Cavalli was actually right there on chasing Annemiek van Vleuten. Then Niamh Fisher-Black, who had been gapped, she rolled an attack. But now we're getting close to the Mur de Huy, and Van Vleuten didn't respond to that Niamh Fisher-Black attack because Fisher-Black, I think, had come back with Sierra. So this is one of the best examples of how good Sierra has been for Van Vleuten. She was able to close down that move. and I think Castelline had gone with it. She was so strong today,
Yeah.
the Pantapura rider. Lippert went with it too. Lippert is a bit over aggressive sometimes, and you look at how the other favourites were preparing for the Murder-Wee ascent. They were not chasing a bait move from Neve Fisher Black. So that's brought back by Sierra. Movistar line it out. Before we get into the finale, mention our show partner, Zwift. In case you haven't heard, Zwift are counting down the days to the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. Join the hashtag New Rules mission and ride 100 kilometers on Zwift between now and 15th of May, just under a month, to enter yourself into a grand prize of a VIP trip to watch the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift this year and ride on some of the most iconic rides in France. For more info and terms and conditions, as well as your free 7-day trial, head to Zwift.com through the link in the description down below. Were you expecting AVV to basically do the Underbreaker Murder-Wee style, Benji? Just try to max the 3-minute power effort and blow everyone off the wheel?
I was expecting something similar like that. I was expecting a move by Van Vleuten like the last 2 times she went up this climb with the favorites, because she's always kind of there, but hasn't won this race before, but always close. And I was expecting just that steady tempo like you mentioned, and that didn't really come, man. Niewiadoma wasn't looking that good because she was left behind on the previous climb, then eventually had to crawled back to that group at the foot of Murder-Wee, but couldn't get through anymore. And like, by the time you see the others starting to accelerate at the front, you know that Niewiadoma is not going to be the one that is going to win this one, unfortunately, because I would have loved to see her win today. But when it comes to the other riders there, who eventually took the attack that led to the victory.
Yeah, it was Cavalli just following slowly, not really overreacting to AVV's acceleration with 400 meters to go, reeled her back in, actually dropped Vollering at that point. It was very, very similar this to when Alaphilippe dropped Valverde when he chased Roglic on Murder-Wee last year. And she reels back in. Van Vleuten gets the wheel, seems entirely comfortable there with 250 meters to go. Knows she's gap following, and all she's checking is that SD Works don't come back. Waits. AVV seems to be blowing up, and then just sails past her with 75 meters to go. So I didn't expect it. I didn't know Cavalli had this level punch where she could just close down AVV and then sprint past her easily, but she won Amstel in a very different way to this. This was much more dominant. Wins La Flèche Wallonne ahead of Annemiek van Vleuten. Vollering third, Moolman fourth, Mavi Garcia and Logoborghini fifth and sixth. They paced it better. Lippert was seventh, and she actually had tried to keep AVV's wheel and then lost a lot of time. She was 33 seconds back. Christabel Dubel-Hickok of EF Education Tibco eighth. I can't remember if she was in the break or not.
Yep.
She was, as well as Castellane ninth, Sant Esteban 10th for Bike Exchange. So FDJ keep winning. Did they win a? They won a World Tour race last year, I think. One with Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig, but Cavalli's Benji looks good for Liège.
Yep. I feel like she's really stepping up. She's got a low-key kick in sprints. She's not necessarily as fast as Vollering in a one-up sprint, I dare to say, but she can compete, I'd say. And knowing that she doesn't necessarily have Uttrup Ludwig as well, it's kind of weird, because on one end you'd say that's a valuable teammate that they are missing, a valuable co-leader on paper, but I've got a feeling that these last 2 races without Uttrup Ludwig might have freed Cavalli more than it really, hindered her, per se. Because we've said it a few times before, in races before, they tend to not necessarily be the best co-leaders to work together to get one of them to a victory. They're kind of looking after their own result most of the time, and perhaps that's something that comes from the team saying, okay, we're counting on 2 horses here. But when it comes to this specific result on this Murder-Wee finish, I don't think it would have mattered too much if Uttrup Ludwig was in this race or not, depending on perhaps the attacks before the last climb. One would have tried to perhaps get away before the climb, I don't know. But I honestly see a lot when it comes to Cavalli. I think she was my podium pick, I think, for the Tour de France Femme, but I'm hearing more and more rumors that she's focusing on the Giro Rosa, but also has a confirmed presence at the Tour de France Femme. So I hope that she can be great in either one of those, to be honest, then yeah, I hope that she gets a decent GC result there. I just feel like she's always like the second pick as leader for FDJ, and I hope that changes now.
I think that should probably change. But yeah, great team performance from them. They had to manage the break all day and they got it done. So unreal from them. SD Works just, there's not much you can do. If you don't have the legs on motorwheel, you don't have the legs. That's all from us. We'll have the Liège Bastogne Liège preview dropping tomorrow. I'm not sure if we might have a Tour of the Alps roundup either on Saturday or as part of the Liège recaps on Sunday. So don't hold us to that. We've taken it a bit easy this week. And yeah, thanks to Zwift as always for supporting the show. And we'll see you later. Tomorrow, that is.